You ever eat a pangolin?
No, what is that?
Oh, baby. You
Wait, I know
gotta
what
get
that
in a
is.
pangolin. Yeah,
Wait, you don't
it's
eat those. Really? Wait, is that where bat flu came from?
well, bat flu came from bats, but yeah, it's a
Hang flu. That
pang
doesn't sound
flu.
right.
I don't like it. No, bat flu. I feel like bats really got thrown to the wayside there. Like nobody calls
Yeah.
it bat flu anymore.
Bat lobby did a good job getting that out real
Oh, big
quick.
bat, absolutely. Here's the thing. I'd eat a bat.
You would?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think so.
The bats, I think, are
How do you
unique in
cook
that
a bat? Oh, that's the whole thing. It's like a
it's a
soup.
soup. Yeah. Well, I will say, in the pictures I've seen of people eating bat soup, it appears they do just stick like a desiccated whole bat in like a milky broth.
Why would you think to do that?
Well,
I
I
mean,
don't
I guess
know.
so. They should just call it bat broth, and then people
Bat
in
broth.
LA would
Yeah,
like it.
actually, absolutely. Yeah. Like it's. I mean, I feel like people eat all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? Like a corn dog. What's a corn dog?
Well, that's a hot dog and with like a corn thing around it.
Exactly. That's a weird thing. You know, if you were to describe that to
The
a
one at
Martian.
Disneyland is very good.
I'm a big fan of corn dogs over here. I like the whatever the corn parts made. I guess corn. I like that a lot. I used to eat a lot of corn or hush puppies. I
Oh
guess when I was
yeah, that's
younger.
big corn. Thanks to big corn.
I will say, people complain so much about big agribusiness.
Yeah.
Everybody loves corn.
I don't think everybody loves corn.
What do you
Also,
want to be
it's
eating?
really
A
bad
tomato?
for you.
A bad. Who cares? That's all. That stuff's all fake. I've been watching a lot of like really long YouTube ads at the beginning of videos with a guy talking about his diet. And let me tell you, these guys have foods you never even would believe.
You know, I was YouTubing the other day. It's like the Wild West out there, man.
What does Liz watch on YouTube?
That's none of your business.
I know. I think I would like to know. You can put it in the little chat thing here. You don't need to
not-
tell the listeners,
No,
but I would
no,
like
no.
to. Oh, Jake Paul. Huh?
Wait, who's that? Which one's that?
I got. Let me
Wait,
tell
is
you.
that the Aryan Swedish one? No.
Well, no,
Wait.
no. Oh no, that's PewDiePie. That's yeah. Yes, that one's. I don't
He
even
sounds
know.
like he's like a cartoon character with a coin purse.
Could you imagine like trying to get like a girl and be PewDiePie? I mean, I think he probably has no problem. But like you go out and you're like, she's like, "What do you do?" You're like, "Oh, I make my name's PewDiePie, and I make videos for children."
Do you think when people who YouTube when they introduce themselves, do they say like I'm a YouTuber?
I mean, I don't. I mean, I've said this on the show before, but like when I've introduced myself to people and they ask me what I do, I'm like, I host a radio show. Like, I don't want to say I work in media or anything. I just
Oh my
like,
God,
it's, yeah, I do
yeah.
like because I try to bring to mind like an image
Is that what
of
we
like,
do? Do we work in media?
no, we're like if you think about this, we're actually like co-workers of Howard Stern.
Baba Booey.
That's how I think of it. Like if there was like a company party, I mean company in the big sense, it would be like us and the girls from Call Her Daddy and Howard Stern.
Yeah, that's a horrifying party.
I would love that part. One of the most depressing videos I've ever seen in my life was Howard Stern did a micro penis contest.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you've seen that. It's
No,
so
I've never
fun.
seen it, but people talk about it all the time.
It's an incredible video because it's like not only like okay, you got to be good with just being naked in Howard Stern's like recording studio, but the prize is like what happens is it's like a fucking it's like a line and you stand in line and then you get to the front of the line. Howard Stern's like, yeah, you got a really small penis, and then maybe they give you like $100.
What do you get? Like an award?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they give you like a plaque or anything, but they give you some money, and it's but not a lot of money.
Or
And
a
it just
sash?
was
Or like,
so
they give you a
astounding to
really
me.
tiny ribbon.
Yes. It's so, I mean, I've told you my whole thing about, I don't need to go into my micro penis theories, but like, it was just, when I watched it, it was
That's for your book deal.
I think, I can't know if I've said this on the show. I guarantee that I have, because I feel like I should repeat myself constantly, but if that happened to me, I would just pretend I lost it in a war, like in The Sun Also
Oh
Rises.
yeah,
because,
you've said this, yeah.
But these guys, it's like, I can't, I mean, I guess I humiliate myself daily, just every time I open my eyes, but I just can't imagine like debasing yourself that much, but that's the power of Stern. People love Howard.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got it.
No one would kill for Joe Rogan, but people would absolutely kill for Howard Stern. I believe that in my heart. And I would gladly and immediately kill for the Call Her Daddy girls.
Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Come here. Jeffrey Epstein.
Welcome to our special episode.
You know who we need to get on this show?
Who?
Nassim Taleb.
I don't think he'd do it.
No, he wouldn't.
I feel like he would think of me like a clown. Like
he would. He would think you were a clown.
There's no way Nassim would respect me.
He would probably refer to you as the clown.
I am the Black Swan, though.
No, you're not. Also,
no, it got me in a lot of
not...
trouble when pictures came out of me at that college party.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Nassim's a big get. I think we could get. Has he ever been on Rogan?
Oh, that's. You know what I need? I need him on Rogan with Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Oh my god! Talk about a trifecta.
We can probably get Lindy Man, but I know it's like
that's so like
it's
not
like
even like
bronze prize, you know.
F
Anyways,
tier. Okay, hello.
welcome. This is Radio Talk from TrueAnon. You hear that? That's us rapping about the industry right there.
Yeah, that's the little window into our pre-recording meetings that we always have regularly.
My name is the Vampire.
What?
It's kind of going for like a dark Brace thing, but I'm Brace.
Well, I'm Liz. Hello, welcome. This is TrueAnon.
Of course, we are joined by hunky producer Nassim Taleb and his assistant, Young Chomsky.
And we are back talking about the Great Reset. So, one thing I want to say before we start, it is so funny because Bryce and I have been talking for a couple weeks now. You know, we've been trying to figure out when to do the Great Reset episodes because we knew we wanted to talk about this stuff, and it's been all out there and everything, but like the day we recorded, apparently like Tucker Carlson did an episode about it, so that's the zeitgeist, baby.
Yeah, Laura Ingraham did too. Hers suck. I didn't watch the Tucker Carlson.
I didn't watch either of
Laura's
them.
was so phoned in.
Do.
Yeah, I don't have time for that shit. It's but I did listen to a variety. Since we did ours, I listened to like there's a bunch of Corbett Report ones on it, and I'll tell you what. I found some good. If you just add the word bio to something, it makes it way scarier. Biosecurity scares the shit out of me as opposed to just regular security. Yeah. So I'm going to be using the word biosecurity a lot this episode. And I will say we got some feedback, and I'll tell you, I ignore feedback religiously, but we did get some feedback that our first episode was depressing. And don't worry, this second episode, we go into the lighter side of the Great Reset. White slavery.
I think it was depressing.
Well, what? I mean, I'll be honest with you. What am I supposed to do, man? We had the Grover thing in there. What do you want me?
I think that really fucked people up. The Grover thing.
Or that might have been Elmo. I can't.
Was it Elmo?
A Muppet's a Muppet to me, man. I don't.
Oh my god, are you kidding? What did you say? A Muppet is a Muppet? No.
Yes.
No, these are all very distinct, different creatures with
you
very
can't tell me the difference between
personalities.
Grover and Elmo. You can't tell. They're just blue and red.
That's not true. They're very
What's
different.
another difference? This is what's another difference.
Well,
you can't do it. No one can.
You're not letting me talk.
I'm buying you time.
Oh my god. Grover's way more mischievous.
Yeah.
He's a little troublemaker. He's got his schemes. You're kind of a Grover.
I've always been told I'm more like I can't remember any of their other names. The Count.
I am the Count. They call me the Count because I love to count things.
You're a little Count. When I was a kid, I loved the Count.
I hated the Count. Not a numbers guy.
Yeah. One Betty, two Betty. We should have got him for COVID. He could have done a great PSA.
Oh my god!
On Batsuit.
He would have been fantastic. It's cannibalism for him, so it's like it's a human rights issue or vampire.
Oh my god!
Yeah, right.
Anyway, hello. Sorry.
welcome.
We already did that. Oh shit.
Well, I was going to say the name of the episode, which I can't remember. I think it's Down and Dirty in Davos, or To Live and Die in Davos Part 2.
Oh my god.
What are we popping off?
No, we were just saying that people said it was depressing.
Oh yeah. This one's not. I swear to God. No, this one's
no.
good.
But I just want to say that, like, sorry about that. I feel like that's not usually our beat, or that didn't used to be our beat, and we gotta like perk up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm talking mostly about myself.
I'll be honest with you. Everything we're going to talk about today is something that I not only approve of, but I've heavily invested in. So I'm telling you, when we get to digital currency, I'm telling you, buy digital currency.
No,
when we get to bug food, buy the bug food. When we get to the Impossible Whopper, I'll tell you, my closet right now full of thousands of Impossible Whoppers that I hand out to 12-year-olds.
Oh my god.
Well, I wouldn't sell.
Did you see Mick Plant?
Injunction.
Did we talk about this? Mick Plant?
No, I missed that totally. It's like the rapper burger I missed too.
McDonald's launched their veggie burger, which is like a partnership with Beyond Burger, and they named it Mick Plant.
Awful name. Or
maybe it's not a partnership with Beyond Burger. Beyond Burger stock tanked right after the announcement of Mick Plant.
Oof. Yeah, they need to. It's too bad my people are forbidden by law from working in fast food anymore.
I think Mick Plant is a psyop by the meat industry.
Meat industry, big beef.
Yeah, you call it something so stupid and dorky, so people don't buy it.
I would never order McPlant.
That's the fucking big brains of big beef. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, we are talking about a big piece of shit to start off with today.
Klaus.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to talk about the German stuff. Apparently, Germans don't like that, and you know what? That's fine with me. I'm very sorry.
Did you hear from some Germans?
Yeah. They left me a bunch of voicemails that went, Mach schnell, Mach schnell. And I was like, whoa, baby, okay, Woo-hoo. No. But I feel guilty every time my ethnic anger comes up. But it's so Klaus Schwab. I gave you the run through. He's from Germany, but I really want to sort of pinpoint this guy as sort of the Kautsky of capitalism. And now this is a Patreon episode, so I don't have to worry about any normal people hearing that. In that he is a
shareholder capitalism.
Yeah, shareholder capitalism. But like what he is he's sort of like a guy who is sort of appalled at the excesses of what's called stakeholder capitalism. And he wants to, he says he made up something called shareholder capitalism. He did not, but I really respect anybody who just pretends to have made something up that already existed. And so he's written several books to that effect. And it's sort of been like his mantra since the 70s, in fact. And I think like shareholder capitalism, I don't know about you, but whenever I hear like any of the shit coming out of Davos, when they start talking about any social responsibility stuff, I kind of tune it out, right? Like, because I feel like my whole life we've always heard about like, the social responsibility coming from companies and, blah, 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 blah. And like, what does that end up with? Maybe they start, a Ronald McDonald House or like, they stop, doing death squads for a couple of months a year or whatever. But I think it is really worth paying attention to Schwab's stakeholder capitalism sort of scheme, I want to call it, because that's all it really is. The whole thing's a fucking scheme.
Yeah.
Did you know about stakeholder capitalism? I did not. I don't pay any attention.
I had heard it thrown around a lot, and I had assumed, I didn't know that it was, that it kind of like stood in opposition to what is known as shareholder capitalism, which was pioneered by Milton Friedman kind of in the 70s. It's like kind of redirecting businesses toward single like profits on behalf of their shareholders, right? And so it was like giving businesses a very like kind of singular purpose. This is all this is all like business management shit. As opposed to kind of like economic theory. I kind of want to make that distinct. Like this, it's not like, this isn't something where, It'd be like, if you want to know the brains of your enemy, read Klaus Schwab's books. It's like, no, do not. It's like a fucking waste of time.
There's no reason for you to do that.
I've read 2 of them. They're awful. It's stupid. This is the kind of shit that they throw at like management grads in business school. And it's the same thing with like shareholder capitalism. It's all just like management strategies. So it's like internal to business kind of culture. But I don't think that's exactly what Klaus is doing or Davos is attempting to do with this iteration.
No, so I actually, I had no idea what shareholder capitalism was either. I guess they also sometimes call it MSV, maximize shareholder value, which I kind of like. I like anything that could be cut down into 3 letters. As a long-time listener to the show will know, I'm not the economy guy. It's a lot of this stuff I kind of just like try not to get into the details with, because I know it's all pretty bad. And to be frank, when I read it, I don't understand it. But I do understand what maximize shareholder value means. It means make as much fucking money as possible for your shareholders. But that, like, okay, you might say, all right, stakeholder capitalism is sort of against that, or not against that, but like stakes itself out in opposition to that. Not so entirely sure of that. It stems from this book called The Modern Corporation and Private Property by these guys, and check out these fucking names. Adolf Berle, you can tell it's written in the 30s or early 30s. And this is my most like 1930s American ass name that there is. Gardner Means. I feel like this guy wasn't in the State Department, but whenever I feel like I read, like you read the Devil's Chessboard or anything like that, you read about guys in the State Department from like the mid to early 20th century. They're all named shit like Gardner, like Mr. Hose or whatever. It's like these names. I mean, Adolf obviously went out of favor for a variety of reasons. Yeah. Thanks again to our German listeners, but. Named Gardner, I feel like I don't even, I
didn't even know that was a first name.
I mean, they should bring that back in like the whole Brooklyn theme name.
Yeah, they can add like an extra IEYTH to it somehow, and then maybe some Americans will start naming their
Gardner.
Gardeneath.
But Means is such a funny last name for like a business guy.
Yeah. It's kind of cute.
So it's I'm just like, what country is that from? But anyways, it's essentially, that book is like a call to arms for shareholders to actually exercise control over the companies into which they're invested. And of course, at this time, there's still is a lot of small shareholders in these companies. But what they're basically saying is people centralize their wealth by means of investments in these large companies, but the wealth isn't actually under their control. It's under the control of the people who actually, have the controlling shares in these companies and the people who run those companies themselves. They claim that companies, and this is the central, as far as I can tell, thesis of the book, is that companies are no longer private, but they're social institutions. And that theme echoes in a lot of Schwab's fucking work. So in 2020, Davos released a manifesto. And I'll tell you what, there have been a lot of manifestos released in the 20th and 21st century. In fact, the 19th century as well. Some good,
famously.
Some bad, yes. Who can say manifestos are themselves neutral, but there can be, positive and negative manifestos. I would say this is a negative manifesto. Liz, do you want to read the point A of this this manifesto? I feel like you have the more sonorous voice for these lyrical words.
The purpose of a company is to engage all its stakeholders in shared and sustained value creation. In creating such value, a company serves not only its shareholders, but all its stakeholders, employees, customers, suppliers, local communities, and society at large. The best way to understand and harmonize the divergent interests of all stakeholders is through a shared commitment to policies and decisions that strengthen the long-term prosperity of a company.
So what are we seeing here? Because I guess we got to make the distinction between shareholders, as in people who are actually invested in making money in a real way from this company, and stakeholders, which are the wage cucks, and also I guess people who live near them.
Okay, so shareholders would be literally anyone who owns a share in a company, right? Quite literally. So That would be, yeah, that's very different from what they're kind of trying to define as stakeholders, which they're basically trying to, it's sort of like they're doing both at once. They're redefining the company as they're redefining stakeholders in that company. Do you see what I mean? So they're saying that stakeholders of the company are not just shareholders or management or employees or workers or CEOs, but also like greater society at large. Whether that's in kind of institutions that we'll get into, like in what you would traditionally call like civil society, or, you know, public institutions, kind of like civic bodies, the demos, what we think of as the people. So it's like basically, as it's saying that those are people that are the company is responsible to, it's redefining what a corporation is, right? Because that's not necessarily who, like, you would think a business has any responsibility to, right? It's a business.
Yeah. What's good for General Motors is good for the country.
So yeah, so it's kind of like doing both at once. And I mean, I want to make that clear because it's really expanding its own, I would say it's expanding its own reach as it's kind of redefining these principles.
Yeah, that's kind of what, like, the term social institution. You know, I'm not a big theorist guy. Maybe this word is thrown around all the time, but like that's what this really brings to mind for me is that from the book I mentioned before, social institutions, because that's sort of what it seeks to redefine a company as. Because as far as I can remember, a company's purpose is to make money for the people invested in that company. And this seems like the company's purpose is to not only do that, but to also be a social good.
Well, yeah. I mean, a firm's purpose is to seek profit.
Yes. Yeah.
At bottom.
So we got point B too, which I think actually elaborates the point a little more too, or elaborates the topic.
Let me use my like management school voice, computer management school voice. A company is more than an economic unit generating wealth. It fulfills human and societal aspirations as part of the broader social system. Performance must be measured not only on the return to shareholders, but also on how it achieves its environmental, social, and good governance objectives. Executive remuneration should reflect stakeholder responsibility.
Okay, so we're seeing here basically underline what we were saying before. It's that the company, the measurement of success is not whether it just makes money for the people who are invested in it, but whether it provides a social good, and whether, you know, it's environmental policies, it's social policies, and it's good governance objectives, which don't get me fucking started on that. But it's this really, I think, was driven home by the Greta, what they call the Greta effect.
Yes. Actually, and there is like a part C that I want to read here, because this is even more directly related to the Greta effect, which, by the way, when we say Greta effect, that's Klaus's words. But I agree with him that there is a thing called Greta effect.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let me read part C. A company that has a multinational scope of activities not only serves all the stakeholders who are directly engaged, but acts itself as a stakeholder, together with governments and civil society, of our global future. Corporate global citizenship requires a company to harness its core competencies, its entrepreneurship, skills, and relevant resources in collaborative efforts with other companies and stakeholders to improve the state of the world.
So he's basically describing a new world order, but like with, I guess, Twitter or something. I don't know what these companies are.
So, I mean, to be honest, like, I think this is all... I mean, I keep saying management speak because I do think so much of this is the kind of bullshit that you would read in like management schools, right?
Well, Schwab's whole thing though was like he originally started the Davos or WEF to bring American management practices over to Europe. So yeah, I mean, that's not surprising at all.
So I mean, this is all, yeah, it's a gloss on like things that have already been happening, right? And like, I think in the last episode, we were kind of I know we were kind of all over the place, but we were trying to get at the fact that, like, I think that the right really, again, I didn't watch Carlson's thing, but like, I think the right really portrays this as like, there's this tiny group of conspiracy. They're going to flip a switch and the whole world is going to change. You're going to be, bug mulch, which that might happen. We'll get into that. But, this is really just kind of a new branding and a new gloss on like neoliberal capital practices that we've been welcoming and have been growing for, the past couple decades. I mean, I think that people, whether they know it or not, have been demanding companies have more social responsibility. And like, so companies are responding in kind. Like there's a push-pull here that I kind of wrote about this in that like Baffler piece I wrote a long time ago, that like when people lose like when the state has failed people so completely, they turn to these institutions that are rising, which are fucking Amazon and Google and Facebook, and look at what all these things they're providing. And people suddenly, it's like, their brains have been not reprogrammed, but because that sounds like, but it is kind of a reprogramming where it makes sense to demand like social good and social change and social services from companies.
Yeah.
And so this is just them responding in kind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of this push towards stakeholder capitalism, I mean, Schwab has been, flogging this sort of idea for quite a while, but I think like the actual turn from companies, I mean, we'll get to the business roundtable thing in a second, but like from companies to turn to this sort of, I don't know what you would call it, idea, really stems from a lot of the same milieu that like a lot of the left-wing stuff you see stem from. I mean, the whole Occupy movement and like, everything prior and post that, I think kind of really dovetails with this in like a very synergistic, to use corporate speak, way in that like companies, and you'll see this in all articles about stakeholder capitalism is that they acknowledge that companies, may have gotten a little too big for their britches. They may have, CEO pay might be a little bit too high. And like, maybe the social good that they've been doing, maybe they've been lax on that front. I mean, and you really see this with this just outpouring of political and semi-political, well, it's all political, ideation coming from companies in this past, not only this year, I think it's been really, glaring this year, especially with a lot of BLM stuff, but like, in the past decade, essentially, you've seen these companies get more overtly politicized. I mean, of course, do not get me wrong. At all points in the history of business has been political. But in this sense, like taking these sort of like socially responsible and progressive, or sometimes on the flip of that, but really engaging in the same idea, maybe you have the Chick-fil-A type companies or the MyPillow type companies, although those are much, rarer,
smaller,
I guess.
Yeah.
But like, you see like the Black Lives Matter, McDonald's stuff, and you're like, oh, well, this is pretty weird. But like, it's all kind of part of this same thrust, right? And I think like, to return to the Greta effect thing real quick, Greta was brought to the World Economic Forum by WEF members. Like, I think it's presented as if Greta was sort of like smuggled in by some, radical environmentalist and jumped on a stage and grabbed the mic, Kanye West style.
At Davos, can you imagine?
Yeah,
the
like
most
just pushing
secure
someone
location
over.
with the richest fucking people and some like fucking like, I don't know, like like PETA supporter gets in there to throw blood on it. It's like, that's not gonna happen.
I mean, Liz, I don't know if you've ever played any online video games, but in first-person shooter games, if you stray outside of the area of battle, oftentimes you will die within 3 seconds. And I think that there's a sort of a reverse effect on that in Davos, where if you're a normal person, you go to Davos, your body just breaks down and disappears within 3 seconds.
It's actually, I think it was like the 8th circle in Dante's
Yes.
Inferno was Davos.
Also a great online shooting video game. No, so there's you can even see this in the switch from, I'm sure some of our listeners have heard of Davos Man. And Davos Man is basically exactly what you'd expect, a jet-setting, business type. But Davos itself has tried to rebrand as like a Davos for the people kind of thing. And has brought a sort of particular brand of populism, grown from Davos to the world in this sort of like new, populist image that they're trying to create. Of course, I don't think people really catch on or care, or, if you don't read about this stuff, which, you are making the right decision, you wouldn't have noticed. But like, now they're going to do like Davos, not just in Davos, but all over the world. They're going to have their Davos influencers in all these different cities set up like sort of like TEDx style things. In fact, I'm sure with many of the same people. Little side note on that. I found out that a listener sent in a list of Davos fellows, essentially, and like their global leadership, and it was great because it was like David Rothschild, Tulsi Gabbard, Mark Zuckerberg, like Pete Buttigieg. I mean, it was a real rogues gallery. But the Greta thing I think is really important because like Greta wasn't brought to Davos to attack Davos. Greta was brought to Davos to be absorbed, or not even absorbed, to erupt out of Davos. So like in the way I think of it, and, this is a child. I'm not talking about, I'm sure she's a very fine kid or whatever. I don't know her. But like the sort of Greta effect is what I'm talking about here was on purpose. And it really, I hate to use this word twice, but it's very synergistic with this whole stakeholder capitalism pablum.
Yeah. I think too, people may have even heard that term from Elizabeth Warren because she's definitely, I think one of her plans, and everyone knows how we feel about her on the podcast, whatever. But like one of her plans was like getting, corporate governance and, stakeholder. I think she even said stakeholder capitalism. Like we're going to get, indeed. These people to pay their share and do their part and all this shit. And it's because, I don't think that it's a coincidence that a lot of kind of progressive liberals really responded to that, right? And I think that's kind of what we're getting at, is that like the calls are coming from inside the house, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Like you have this, this supposed iconoclast Elizabeth Warren, or at least like anti-big business warrior Elizabeth Warren, agreeing with the Business Roundtable, which is the world's, I think, largest CEO group and like one of our most influential business lobbies. They embrace the exact same thing as Elizabeth Warren, which is stakeholder capitalism. And Liz, I know, you've been doing your Jamie Dimon impression at various stand-up nights around the country for years now, but we're going to have to bust that of retirement and get you to read this quote from one of possibly, hopefully, a future cabinet member of Joe Biden.
Oh my God. I don't think there's any way that he will be in the cabinet.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The American dream is alive, but fraying.
Oh, damn, he sounds like the Watchman.
Major employers are investing in their workers and communities because they know it is the only way to be successful over the long term. These modernized principles reflect the business community's unwavering commitment to continue to push for an economy that serves all Americans. So that's actually really interesting because major employers are investing in their workers and communities. So, it's like a truism that there's kind of an oxymoron with organized labor pressure on capital, right? Where that capital kind of then, labor gets, increased benefits, or like they can get an increased share over what you would kind of, vaguely call the means of production. They get an increased share over their labor time, etc. But capital kind of reorganizes and then is able to kind of exploit them in different ways and grow in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And investment actually ends up so it's this kind of, dialectic relationship, right? So for Dimon to say that employers are investing in their workers and communities because they know it's the only way to be successful over the long term, like what I'm saying is that traditionally, capital does those things for labor because they know it's the only way for it to continue with its boot semi on the neck of labor by giving these concessions, right? There is no organized labor movement pushing capital right now, right?
Well, that's kind of our whole point, is that there's no opposition to basically any of this stuff in any organized way.
No, but my point is so if capital is making these changes to kind of like retain legitimacy amongst like people and like kind of retain, you know, what they have to kind of secure their success over the long term. If we're to take him at his word, which by the way, okay, whatever. I mean, look, I'm just, you know, this is a for instance. We're just talking, we're rapping. Then it's a real question of then why is capital so shaky? And why is it on such like, you know, shaky grounds if it isn't actually being pushed by labor, if it isn't actually being pushed by concessions? Like where is it kind of finding itself weak, where it does need to kind of offer up whatever these concessions are in order to kind of legitimate itself and secure its, you know, long-term profit goals? Anyway, that's just like a little thought I had.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's astounding how, like, you know, this is like a, you know, Business Roundtable, I'm sure some of you have heard of, but it's a pretty big group, and all but 12 of the CEOs that are members of it signed on to this letter wholeheartedly endorsing stakeholder capitalism I think this is in 2019. And it caused somewhat of a hubbub in the business press. A lot of it was skeptical. A lot of it not so skeptical in the case of like the Washington Post, for example. And I do think though, like, you know, everything they're doing makes perfect sense. I mean, it has been astounding to sort of like Liz was saying earlier, watch people turn to these corporations where government has basically abandoned them. And I mean, I know not only us, but every podcaster on earth has quoted this survey a bunch, but you know, the company the institution with the highest trust level in it by Democrats is Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And so like it's I mean this stuff is only going to kind of get more
little prime piggies.
I mean I think, you know, I was in Los Angeles not too long ago, and I was walking down the street and I saw this fucking billboard that it was like, if you're racist, don't take Uber. And like, you know, to me that's just such an astounding, yeah, if you're racist, like delete Uber. It's just something like that. And of course, like to me, you know, just a, you know, average schmuck on the street, I think this is fucking crazy, right? Like I'm looking at this and I mean, you know, this is at the same time this company is about to pass basically a slave labor law in California, Prop 22. And you know, but this all makes a perfect sense within its own logic, right? And like it really is, you know, it's a way it's, and I you know, I said this before in the episode, but like it really goes along perfectly with sort of this like almost only semi-politicized like populist movement against big business that we saw like kind of come out with Occupy. And because what it really is like this like left or whatever you want to call it movement, but without actual like labor involvement.
Right,
and, you know,
right.
and labor's got, believe me, I mean, organized labor in America is a fucking nightmare. You know, like it's, I don't even get me started. For the most part, it is essentially like a lot of these unions are basically government institutions. I mean, in the case of the CIA, literally government institutions sometimes. But it has
You
been
mean
like
the AFL-CIO.
exactly. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, boy, you know, you think I'm kidding, but really look into what they were doing in the 70s and 80s. Look at Love Stone. I mean, you know, it's like this shit. You know, it was out of control, but like it makes perfect sense because there isn't actually any real opposition to any of this stuff. There's only demands that people can make, and then the corporations actually can fulfill these demands by doing stuff like this, by saying if you're racist, delete Uber. That actually is fulfilling a demand, whether they know it or not, by a lot of these, like this sort of like nascent movement, or not even nascent anymore.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think what's being unsaid here and what needs to be answered is that because who is making the demands?
Exactly.
And, you know, I think that conversation makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Well, it's demands for social responsibility. In a lot of, in the final analysis, in a lot of cases, it's demands for social responsibility. Guess what? These companies can answer those demands.
Yeah.
There are certain demands that they cannot answer, but these ones they absolutely can. Anyways, yeah, that's just you know, I've been thinking about this stuff a lot.
So I also want to, when we were reading through the Stakeholder capitalism shtick that he was going off of, I was like reading one of the Davos papers. They have so many fucking papers, too many papers. And they linked to like one of their like anniversary, it was like their anniversary in 2010, I think, or 2012. I can't remember when. And so they like built, wrote this huge document of like all their meeting notes from all the years or whatever. I didn't read that, but I read the manifesto that they wrote, which was like their like looking toward, the next 20 years, I think. Yes. Or something. And there's just a couple things I want to read here because I think that they can help us get to kind of like the kernels underneath.
Crux. No, say crux.
The crux.
Yes.
The crux.
The crux.
Oh, that got a little like ASMR. Sorry, guys. Okay. This thing is long, so I'm not going to read like all of it, but just a couple paragraphs.
No, it's okay. I'll look at my phone.
Decades of economic development, integration of product and service markets, cross-border travel, and new technologies enabling virtual interaction have created a world that is much more complex and bottom-up than top-down. Okay. The world has become not only more economically and environmentally interdependent, but also more interwoven in a socio-political sense. People around the globe increasingly perceive their interdependence and seek ways to express it outside of formal national political structures. They have become more aware that global problems require global trusteeship, and that efforts to solve problems slowly through traditional negotiating processes, characterized by the defense of national interests, are inadequate in the face of critical global challenges. So basically, just to pause here, what Davos, I'm just going to say Davos. Davos man. Which way, Davos man? What Davos is saying here is that the kind of multilateral internationalist, and I don't mean that in the socialist way, but like internationalist vision for global relations and negotiations between nations is like no longer viable because of how interconnected the world is. So like the kind of like the UN model, if even, is like no longer we've moved past this. And so what they're proposing is actually a new kind of model that I think, or it's, if you kind of read between the lines, what they're saying is that we're outgrowing the need for the nation state in negotiating popular national interests against other popular national interests. And that because we are all so interconnected, and because my actions influence your, end up, impacting your actions, and someone else, butterfly effects everywhere, right? That what is required is, he uses the word trusteeship, but basically, a trustee group, a board of supervisors, the, enlightened elders, similar to kind of the structure that you would see, I think, with the Eurozone, right?
Yeah.
And the Council, European Council, which is, famously one of the most transparent organizations.
Oh, absolutely. I have a better idea. Imagine if we sort of solved global conflicts like this. Say I am in Riyadh, right? I'm a Saudi businessman. Maybe I'm not married. Maybe I am. And I find a woman on the internet, on Instagram, and I message her and I say, "Come to Riyadh, sweetie." And she was like, "Well, actually, my town has no highway because the government let it collapse because the Trump just made up the infrastructure bill. He never actually did it." And I was like, "Sweetheart, do not worry. I own literally 100,000 slaves. I will send them right down there to southern New Jersey, and they will build you a highway. And all you have to do is have sex with me." And she says yes, and bam, there we go. It's like we get government out of all the red tape's gone. It's like just people to people right there.
Well, if people listen to our Koch brothers episode, part two, we talked about this is all the same dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the complete abolition, we'll say, of the nation state and of the government, and just having insurance bodies mediate conflict between individuals, right?
Well, that's the thing that drives me so fucking crazy, baby, is because the only real defense against this that it seems like that exists right now, that isn't just something I want to happen, is the nation state. And that is like, that's a hard thing to fucking grapple with, right? You know, it's like, it's the like the only thing that can sort of like fight against, and you know, believe me, I know how this sounds, these international interests is national interests. And like, you know, obviously I don't think such a thing like that is possible in America, for instance, because I think America is basically the center of a lot of this stuff. But like, you know, certainly in smaller nations, like, you know, it's really wild, because that actually, like, that's essentially like a war between two things that have nothing really to do on the immediate level with workers. Although I will be honest with you, the national, I guess, interest probably is better at protecting the workers than this is. But like, at the end of the day, it's just a really depressing fucking binary there.
Yeah. He continues. I mean, I really want to hammer this home, so I'm just going to read a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Nation states and intergovernmental structures will continue to play a central role in global decision-making. However, it's a big however, those institutions must be adapted to today's needs and conditions if they want to preserve their use and indeed their legitimacy. Sounds like a little bit of a threat. They must begin by more clearly conceiving of themselves as just a part of the wider global cooperation system that the world needs. In fact, they should work explicitly to cultivate such a system by anchoring the preparation and implementation of their decisions more deeply in the processes of interaction with interdisciplinary and multi-stakeholder networks of relevant experts and actors. This will help them transcend the silo and reactive thinking that are an acknowledged weakness of the formal multilateral system. It will also help improve the information upon which decisions are based. Okay, so let's break that down.
Let's break it down, baby.
So what Davos is saying here is that and it does sound like a threat, I'm not going to lie, even though as far as I know, they don't have an army, is that if the nation state wants to remain a viable structure, a legitimate structure, nation states are going to have to also basically, you know, not just, you know, cede a lot of their kind of formal structure to this kind of internationalist, like, council of, you know, global technocrats, or whatever this is that they're kind of envisioning. You know, what it will be like a bunch of Jamie Dimons and capital managers, right? But also basically hand over what's left of the popular institutions to what they call relevant experts and actors as interdisciplinary and multi-stakeholder networks. So like, when I read this, by the way, it's like, this is straight out of like McKinsey management stuff. Like, this is saying like, okay, well, these portions of the state actually will be more efficient and better managed if they're handed over to these kind of private expert technicians.
I was about to say, technicians is exactly the word there.
And I don't think, I mean, you know, again, just to like hark back to the Koch brothers episode, like, and what you were just saying about the nation state being like maybe the last possible and maybe the only possible. I mean, it is the only successful one in history, right? It's vehicle for, you know, not just like social democracy, but beyond that we've kind of come across, right? But that, like, you know, the nation state is a hindrance to what these people want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be abolished. That's what they want to do, right?
I mean, it seems like it needs to be just shunted aside, right? Like, because I don't think that they have yet an alternative political system for domestic affairs in any of these places, but certainly for international relations and really for the global governance structure. I mean, absolutely, that's what they're saying right here, and increasingly, I think for domestic, political, and social, I guess, needs to be met, it would also be from these companies and from these institutions that they create. I mean, I don't think this is again like an overnight thing. I don't think that men in Davos men in black ski masks with MP5s are going to go to your local TV station and take it over and declare the Davos regime is in charge. But this is an astute sort of prediction of where things are going by the people who are not just making predictions, but by the people who are making those predictions come true in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, this just sounds like a world EU. I mean, because you can look at, I guess what I say when I say like they want to abolish the nation state is like, look at what the EU has done, which is that like popular national sovereignty is gone, not just through the shared currency, which, is one thing, but also like, the states are now they've become shells of offering whatever, they had post-war.
Yeah.
And it, like we were talking about France when we were just talking with Robbie and Abby Martin, like France is like a police state now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all capital flows are really just managed through, these EU trade deals, these trade deals, and that there's no national interest in any of them. You know what I mean? It's all from...
I can't remember if it was Italy or Greece, but one of those two beautiful countries. I'm sure I've never been to Italy, but looks beautiful. Like they can't even, they don't even make their olive oil from their own olives. It's actually olives like imported from the other one. I can't remember which. And it's just like that all over. And it's like, it's just sort of astounding to see how all this is being managed now. And my whole thing is like, I think the economy's fake. Like, I don't think it's all this financial stuff. It's just made up to me. But like, it's really astounding. Like, just like, I don't know. This new structure that they're talking about is coming into place. And I think a lot of people are almost not going to miss it maybe, but it's not going to come. Like, I want to stress that it's not going to come in like an intergovernmental body called the World Economic Forum that has like machine guns at the borders or anything like that. It's going to come just because that's the way that these companies and that's the way that these institutions are pushing history. And it's not going to be overnight, but it's going to come, or it might come.
So I want to just end this real quick with one last one, which really made me laugh. This is going to end it on a good note. I read this and I was like, I'm sorry, what? The World Economic Forum can make a unique contribution to society at this crucial time. Under the patronage of the governments of Qatar, Singapore, and Switzerland.
There we go.
The forum has been leading an unprecedented global multi-stakeholder and multimedia dialogue since 2009 for the purpose of developing a modern vision of global cooperation. Yeah, talk about Qatar, Singapore, and Switzerland. I'm so fucking happy to be
some of the most free countries in the world.
Yeah, talk about stewardship.
Well, I think Qatar really just like sums up what stakeholder capitalism is all about. There are capitalists, and then there are people who are forced for no money and to have their passports taken to hold stakes and pound them into the desert in order to build a football stadium where like hundreds of their coworkers will be buried underneath after being sold as slave labor to the government by their own government because they're too poor to live in the Philippines.
Switzerland also, it's like, talk about like a neoliberal experiment.
An invented peoples.
It is. That place is crazy. I read something. There was like a Swiss health official came out and said that like people who don't believe in COVID, that what we need to do is create a registry of people who like don't wear masks. They'll get tickets and they'll be put on a registry, or people who don't believe in COVID. And that if they get COVID, they're denied a hospital bed. because there needs to be punishment for those who are anti-science. That's literally what like he said.
Switzerland is fake. It should just be, well, I'll tell you this. It's not a real country.
That is not, it's not, no, it was just for the bankers.
Mm-hmm.
It's created for the bankers.
It's the bankers Israel, and do not read into that. That sounded weird after it came out. It didn't mean that in a weird way. I just meant that it's like a fake country.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. Well, no, I'm not, but I didn't mean it in a bad way. Well, wait, I did, but not in like a fucked up way.
So I don't think, I mean, I hope that wasn't as depressing.
No, I have some pretty good news too. So I actually have a credit chit for a new pod.
What?
And yeah, they're upgrading the pod system here in San Francisco, and I am getting an 8x12 pod, which I don't know, I feel like that's pretty cool. It has a window. It's like a 4K kind of window thing that shows scenes from the outside, but like I'm really excited about it.
Do you know the whole thing? Do you know the whole thing about people calling their like COVID buddies their pod?
No. Oh yeah. Yes.
This never caught on for me. I never heard it until like I read about it on the internet.
No, you know what I call my COVID buddies?
What?
The human race.
That's right, baby.
Mm-hmm. I'm a super.
You're a
spreader.
man of the people.
I'm a super spreader. I got no shame in it.
I just had a like horrible vision of like someone in one of the pods that are coming being like Instagramming like podding from the pod.
Well, they actually, San Francisco does pioneer it. I mean, we do literally have pod living.
I know. That's coming everywhere.
I will say though, those people are fucking suckers because they're paying like $1,500, which will get you a bedroom. Like you can find a bedroom for $1,500. They're paying $1,500 to live in a bunk bed with like a TV that comes out on a swivel. And for some reason, there's always people playing acoustic guitar. And like, I'm sure that doesn't actually happen in real life because these people are all like, 100% noise canceling headphones on, watching Emily from Paris like on their fucking laptop every night.
Did you watch that?
No, I haven't. But
why did you reference it? How did you know to reference it if you haven't watched it?
Because I heard a lady talking about it when I was on a walk the other day. I was walking behind these two women in the park, not in a weird way, and they were describing excitedly the plot of Emily. And I know the plot.
What's the plot? Will you tell us?
Okay, from my memory, some woman gets pregnant, and she's only like 30 or something. I don't know. They kept talking about like why this. Anyways, some lady gets pregnant and she can't go to Paris for work. And so she gets this even younger lady to go to Paris for her. And once this lady gets to Paris, she does a bunch of stuff there. I think it's a fashion thing. And maybe falls in love. Maybe falls in love a couple of times. And overall, it's the experience of Emily in Paris.
I think that was very good.
Have you seen Emily in Paris?
I watched like 2 episodes with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And we were aghast at how terrible it was. But then we couldn't stop watching.
Yeah.
Which I think there's just like it's like a new form of show that's emerged with the like, they just have to like, churn out so much content, whatever, where it's a show that's like, it's not even supposed to be good. And it's almost good that it's not good, bad or bad,
it's like
good.
The Hook though.
But it's like, it's terrible, and it's so terrible that you have to keep watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
My dad, I talked to my dad earlier for the first time in like a month, and he told me that the Hulu show with the fake me in it is out. And I guess the guy says something. Yeah. He's like, I watched the show that you're in. Or
no.
I guess the guy, like, he's like, the dude, like, is.
Papa Brace.
I know, but I guess the guy says it is me. Like he says, it's like some like moron like in glasses from America who's like,
you're like on some fucking casting director's mood board, like you.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, sweetheart. Because the real Brace The real Brace ain't afraid of any Hollywood type people. The real Brace is gonna go down there, gonna go down to North Hollywood, no-ho. The real Brace is gonna take a Glock 40 and he's gonna shove it in some fucking real CrossFit motherfucker. I'm sure this guy's in great shape. I'm sure he's in great shape. And I'm gonna take this thing and I'm gonna shove it so hard in his mouth, his front teeth are gonna break off. And then I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna hold it. I know listeners can't see it, but I'm gonna hold it by the bottom, by the magazine, and I'm gonna jam it like those fucking bump stocks that Trump made illegal. I'm gonna jam it back and forth, and I'm gonna rapid fire and just poof, right in front of his wife and kids. Just playing, y'all. You know I'm just playing. You know I love TV. Hulu, baby.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm Liz.
I am Harvey Weinstein. We have as our producer Young Chomsky, and this podcast is TrueAnon.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
That's what you want. Jeffrey Epstein.